So with that, we are going to begin. Thank you so much to everyone that's here, but more importantly, thank you so much to our attorney speaker, Andy Nguyen. He is a friend of mine. We have it feels like we've known each other for decades now, but we've known each other a few years. And Andy is a UTA alum. He also went to my alma mater, SMU. So we have that we share. And we also both practiced family law. He currently practices family law as well as immigration practice. So I will leave it to Andy to share a bit more about his background and specialization and expertise. But please join me in welcoming attorney Andy Nguyen.
Thank you, Ms. White, for having me. We've been friends for a long time, and it does feel like forever, because so much has gone on, and it's been a pleasure to see how you've been able to grow the pre-law program, and how it was just an idea when I was at UTA, and now it's actually something that's full bore and going strong.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That made me get a big head, but no, honestly, it's not possible without support. So you being here, doing things like this, it makes the program what it is. So thank you.
So just a little bit about myself. I was born in Washington, D.C. in 1974. Both my parents are immigrants. When I was born, though, my father was a diplomat. So I was not, although I was born in Washington, D.C., I'm not a natural born citizen. So I had to be naturalized when Vietnam fell. Both my parents stayed here as refugees, and then my dad got a master's degree from George Washington, and we moved to this area because my mom got a job with American Airlines, and my dad got a job with Texas Instruments. So it took 5 years for me to come to Texas, but I consider myself a Texan or an Arlingtonian. And then for school, I went to a small prep school in Irving named Cistercian. I took a winding road to UTA. UTA was great because it was actually my last chance, and they gave me a chance, and they supported me, and they made it possible for me to go to law school. So I went to law school at SMU, and it took me a while to graduate, but I did graduate. Not first in my class, and I didn't get the highest bar score, but um, when I talk to my old clerks, they'll always tell me how um, nothing prepares you for law school, and law school didn't prepare them for the bar exam. And the bar exam didn't prepare them for practice. What those things do is they provide tools, but then when you're looking at practicing law, you're looking at people and problems. And then that's when people skills start to show, right? Like things like emotional intelligence actually do count. Your ability to communicate and your ability to listen, understand, and then communicate with people in a way that they understand um, become really important. Um, for me, one of the reasons a little bit about my practice. My practice is Uh, we have three backbones. It's immigration, family law, and personal injury. Um, I went back to practice in Arlington versus um, a bigger firm because I wanted to serve first generation Americans and make sure that they got the representation that they deserved. Um, I wasn't particularly impressed with um, what was out there and what was being provided. There's an issue kind of like where the Hispanic community has issues with notarios, which in Mexico, notarios are they're licensed attorneys. Here, it's a $70 application fee. So
And
basically,
notarios are basically notaries, is that right? Like, so the equivalent of a notary here?
yeah. So
Right.
so basically, you get a notary republic
Yeah.
thing put on the outside of um, your hair salon, and then people come to you for their legal problems. Um, in the Vietnamese community, it wasn't much better. So it was basically people who spoke English just a little bit better, preying on people who spoke no English. So, um, so that we've been in Arlington for over 10 years, and we've built our practice on um, having a heart of service and um, truly trying to help people. And one of the biggest issues, whether you're a minority or you're serving like an immigrant population, or if you're just a regular attorney, the issue is communication. The communication between you and your client needs to be crystal clear. One of the things that I ran into was people saying, well, you didn't tell me about that, or I didn't know about that. And I would get so frustrated because my language skills in Vietnamese weren't that good. So sometimes I was kind of attributed to my Vietnamese not being good. But the more I went along, I was like, no, there. Sometimes it's an excuse, but sometimes it is a missed opportunity.
Right.
So what we've been looking at my firm is creating a process with check marks, right? Like they've been informed of this, right? Because that's basically our mission statement. And it's like let them know what their rights are, let them know what their options are, empower them, let them make the options. Um, so uh, that's kind of my practice in a nutshell. We've been fortunate because of our relationship with UTA and to be able to have some great people come through. Um, some of them through the pre-law program, some through the business and the accounting programs, some of the exchange students. We've had two H-1Bs. We just had our second H-1B approved. So H-1B
And
is
okay, yeah, I was gonna say if you could share what an H-1B is. It sounds like
sure.
swine flu. H1N1. Yeah, N1. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So H-1B is like someone with special skills, usually at least undergraduate degree, preferably a graduate degree, um, who is allowed to stay after they graduate to work for an employer for a period of 3 years.
Okay.
So, so with our immigration practice, though, there's really two big divisions. Okay, there's employment and family based. So our firm only does family based, and it only does it only does a family based. And we don't do deportations. So our opportunity to get into court or our exposure to court is very limited. So that's when we hit um, some of the defects in administrative law procedures, and how inexact some of the guidance and some of the practices when it comes to immigration law. Um, Immigration law is tough because immigrants basically have no rights. Um, there's a very limited set of rights, and it's one of those things where outside the country, the president, the executive branch has almost unlimited authority. But with that being said, um, there's a major decision handed out either yesterday or the day before yesterday. And one of the big things with family-based immigration is the fees. So even for naturalization, they're doubling the fees. So like basically everything you wanted to do, the fees doubled. Okay.
Well, so and if I can bring it backwards just a step, because I know for the audience that we have, when they think about, I want to practice immigration law, a lot of them have an idea of what immigration law is, but a lot of the terminology may get lost, and that's what I want to make sure that they have a general idea of what it means to have immigration practice. So when we talk about the type of people that come to you, mentioned people looking to get naturalized. What other type of individuals might come to you for immigration help?
So we do naturalizations and we do family petitions.
Okay.
So family petitions means that if you're a U.S. citizen, that you can also ask for or petition for your mother, your children abroad,
Okay.
and your brothers and sisters.
Okay.
Um, so it kind of concentrates on family reunification.
Okay.
Um, and I think I kind of lean towards it because uh, that's my experience growing up. Like, first, my parents were able to petition for my dad's side, and he had uh, five brothers and sisters. And then my mom petitioned for her side in two different batches, and she's got eight brothers and sisters.
Wow.
So, so yeah, when people talk about chain migration, um, my family is a great example of that, right? Like, so my parents found a foothold. They're able to create a platform for like both of their families to come here, right? In the face of oppression and like corruption, and um, to somewhere where they had like everyone had a chance, right? Um,
That's awesome.
so
What's the timeline on something like that? So you mentioned um, uh, basically family petitions where you can bring on multiple people at a time. I mean, so are the petitions done one by one for each person, or is it one petition for the entire group? And then what's the process like? How long does it take for that to go through?
so it would be a different petition for each person that you're bringing. But then you also have derivative beneficiaries, right? Like, so if your brother or sister had kids, they'd be a derivative beneficiary. So it's usually one petition for each person, um, unless you're a permanent resident, then it's usually one petition, and then it's more limited. If you look at a family tree, if you're a US citizen, you can go up, down, and sideways. Okay. If you're a permanent resident, then you can basically just go uh,
Down, right?
spouse
Yeah.
and children.
Hmm.
Um, so there's one of the great benefits of being a U.S. citizen is, besides maybe as important as voting, is being able to sponsor your larger family, and to give them a chance.
Awesome. Well, so we did get a question in the chat. Could you give us a breakdown of what a typical day looks like as an immigration slash family attorney? And you can take it from either side or both if you want. What does a day look like? You get up, rise and shine, go into the office. What do you do in a day? Responsibilities, meeting with clients.
So do we want to do pre-COVID versus
I
post-COVID,
know,
or just
yeah,
in
okay. So
general?
you know what? I'm so glad you brought that up because I'd love to know. Let's say in our world as we once knew it. So in 2019, what would that day look like? And then I think I, as well as those on the call, would love to know how COVID has changed that.
So in 2019, it would be getting to the office. 19,
It feels like forever ago. Our world has changed so
well,
much.
so I'm trying to space it,
Um,
like between like where the kids are.
you're right.
So there's so I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So when you have a family, it kind of changes. It changes everything. It changes everything.
Yes.
Um, um, but like honestly, when I had kids and look, my daddy hormones kicked in. So whenever I saw like a kid being treated unfairly or not getting the opportunities that I think every child should deserve, I was chewing out my clients, like opposing counsel, like came really close to chewing out some judges, which is not recommended. Um, like there's just something about becoming a father that is amazing, and actually I think made me a better attorney. I think it made me a better person for sure. Um, and then some of that's one of the things that doesn't get calculated, right? Like, what type of person are you? Like, people's personalities come through in their practice, and what they do. Um, but in 19, what I would do is I would get up around 5, and then go to work until about 8. Um, like the morning became my secret weapon. Basically, when the babies woke me up, I went to work. Right. So I'm getting ready at work at 3 o'clock in the morning, get there by 5, and then I found I found that the morning is the best time to get stuff done. I've never been a morning person, but it was like there's no phone calls. There's time to gather your thoughts before you do something. Like it unlocked this secret weapon for me. So I would organize the day before anyone got here, and then when they got here, they would have their tasks, right? And then most of the day was the rest of the day was either client consults or putting out fires. Um, uh, I was doing 4 or 5 consults a day. Um, uh, I think that was probably too many. The consults they take a lot out of you because you really have to focus. You're issue spotting, you're doing analysis, and then you're coming up with a game plan. Or at least that's how my consults went. Um, so I'd put together these game plans and then it wouldn't get captured.
Nice.
So the next time I touch the file, like I'm having to put it, like if it becomes a file, then I'd have to go back and figure out, okay, I figured it out. My notes are horrible. I can't read my own handwriting. Crap. Like, uh, so start over, right? So a lot of those inefficiencies really like made my workday longer. Um, but when post COVID,
Yes.
we just had all these communication issues, and like people started work at different times, and nothing was there, and nothing lined up. So we had to change the way we worked. Like we had a case management system, but we didn't use it all the way, right? So now we use it very, very thoroughly, like where everything is recorded and everything tracks back to the case or the client, so that all the communication, like it gets stacked in one spot, which is accessible from anywhere you are, right? Because it's cloud based.
And case
Um,
management, this is case management software or just a case management system that you have internally?
so,
Because I know different firms do different things. Just curious.
so we, for case management, uh, we have a program called My Case,
Mm.
um, and uh, I there's a couple out there. There's Clio and My Case are the two big ones. Um, I use My Case because it's not an open API, so there's a little bit more security. But not being an open API, it's harder to plug things into it. Um, so we use a lot of software. um, so that's one thing that I appreciate with uh, younger people is more exposure to the technology, right? Like, so they're comfortable with Dropbox and how to share things. How we share and use information is really key, right? Like, it's all about communicating, like, to your clients, to the court, within each other. Because I have so many issues, right? Like, um, that it's hard for me to do it by myself, right? Like, if you want to do everything by yourself, um, you're really going to be limited in what you can do. But like, if you're able to work with other people and you have a team, then everyone's going to have different strengths, and hopefully you can pull out those strengths in everyone and make like a better product or get better results for your clients. Um, so that kind of strayed away from the question. I'm sorry.
Oh no, well, and ultimately the main question was just what do you do in your day? And I feel like you covered that both pre-COVID and post-COVID. Um, and what I understood from it was that the major shift in duties and responsibilities pivoted from just client intake and bringing on new business to client management and ensuring that the current business was well taken care of and more organized in a situation where everyone can't see everyone every day. So yeah, I feel like you answered the question just fine.
Yeah.
Um,
So we love Slack. We absolutely love Slack right now.
the
So
communication tool, not laziness, by the way.
if you don't use Slack, take a look. It's free. Like, if so so like, I'm crazy, right? So like, there, when something doesn't work, I get really, really frustrated. If if I don't win, I get really, really frustrated.
I feel
If I
like
don't
almost
get the
all lawyers
result,
are competitive by nature.
so it's like that's fine. I don't want to feel like that again. So so it's taken a while to fully integrate into the case management, and then we're communicating through Slack. But what's missing is, so our next step is to incorporate Asana. So Asana, like, we can manage the task through my case, but
Mm-hmm.
those outside goals are
Mm-hmm.
not tracked, because when you run a practice, about over half, like 60, 70% of your time running a practice is either business, personnel, or something else related. So the time that you actually get to practice law is from 5 in the morning until 9, and then whenever one leaves. Uh, but we our next step is to incorporate Asana, and then um, hopefully by second quarter next year, we'll incorporate range, which looks at like a more holistic goals. And so we're using 3 different applications to communicate on top of phones and email.
Mm-hmm.
But like email has its role, but just when you read the same email chain 10 times, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to start to miss things because you forget what part of the chain you're reading.
Right.
Um, so that, like, because it's not piled, the information becomes long and less useful. That's the primary benefit that we found with Slack, is like we have one conversation about one thing, and everything's stacked, right? Like 4 different people can say the same thing. I only have to read through 4 lines, versus something that's CC and you're going in
Right.
circles with it.
Right.
And then sometimes you'll, like, I serve for the Asian Business Council as vice chair for the Arlington Chamber of Commerce, and that's one of the things I'm going to change, because sometimes it's just people kissing butt, right? Like, so you're kissing this important guy's butt, and like there's not now you've generated 12 emails for me to read, and you got nothing done. So. Uh,
I love it. Well, so okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of good practices that have come out of this terrible time that you probably will carry over into how you continue to do business once once the dust has settled with COVID and everyone is back in the office and full time back in the office.
Oh, could I mention how court has changed?
Please, please.
So, so with family law, um, there's some great family law attorneys out there, and there's some horrible, and then there's a big in between. Okay, where what I took a lot, or what I take a lot of pride in, is I know my file and I know the facts. So, like, even if the law doesn't work too well in that situation, like, just by knowing the facts better than the other side, um, is a huge advantage. This is a surprising advantage, right? Like, when people go to court, it's surprising how often people are not prepared. Okay. So with a family case, one of the interesting things is you can get temporary orders, and that's like a mini trial. So you'd go to court and you'd have someone stacked with 6 different cases. There's no way that they can figure out all those cases, right? So, um, like, things have completely changed because of how things are done now. Like, things are actually done a little closer to how we have in our model. Like, when when you when we work with a client, what we try to do, really simple things: timeline, family tree, what the major issues are, right? Like, you can dominate a hearing based on a timeline. Like, so how do we take this information, like weaponize it use it to move the ball forward. Um, so I love it because now, with everything through Zoom, you have to submit the exhibits a day before.
Mm,
So there's no like, I have this,
right.
right? There's no surprises. So I can pick off your positions really quick when I have all your evidence, right?
Mhm.
And that's closer to how things should be.
Well, and I
The
know they do it in the criminal courts that you have to disclose. So I think what you're getting at is that everybody should be doing it.
Well, so that was the weird thing. Like when the criminal courts are ahead of the civil courts as far as sharing information, but the share on the criminal side is only one way, right?
Right.
So, so and you have two people arguing. So like, but their system was cleaner because everyone's working from the same file.
Mm.
That's one of the things we're looking at, right? Like, how do you visualize data or use the information you have, make it so that that's one of those things that we do to get an edge. We tried to reduce it down to a demonstrative piece of evidence,
Mhm.
and once it goes in, and that's what the judge is using to frame everything. Guess what? Like, the judge is going to give me everything I asked for. So, because I've also submitted the requested relief, which wasn't standard practice in Tarrant County before. Like, when you go to court, you should know what you're asking for,
Absolutely.
and your client should know what they're asking for, because there's only a limited number of things that can be decided, and then if your client doesn't understand that, they're trying to fight for the wrong things. They're getting ready for the wrong things.
Yes.
So,
Well, and there is a question in the chat, but I just kind of want to stick with this for 1 second longer. When you talk about dealing with the clients, because you mentioned a term issue spotting, which once everybody in this chat goes to law school, that's all you're going to do all day for classes, issue spot. But um, when you're meeting with your clients, I mean, how often is it you helping to shape what it is that they want and helping guide them to what they want out of the courts?
so when so there's kind of two parts, especially to family law, right? There's what the law will structure to do, and then there is what your client's goals are, and they don't always fit too well together, right? So um, if you're getting a divorce and your husband has been a jerk for 20 years, I'm not going to make him a nice guy. I'm not going to make him like a nice guy who'll speak nicely to you and treat you with the proper amount of respect. That's that, that's not one of the things that the courts will help decide, right?
Mhm.
But then also having everyone on the same page is so important, because you have to itemize the goals. Like unless you know what you're working towards, you don't know what you like. It's all noise, right? So like, everything needs to fit. Like, what are we working towards? What do you really want, right? So my consults are probably half the time is explaining the law. No, maybe a third explaining the law, a third understanding their situation, and then a third figuring out what the game plan would be, right? Um, but sometimes people come to you with weird goals, and if it doesn't make sense, then you have to explain it to them why it doesn't make sense, or you have to figure out what's really bothering them and what they really want. Um, the courts are like these really rough tools. It's not like surgery, right? And even when you look at medicine, like it's not as scientific as you'd like it to be.
No, you're right. It's not an exact science. There's a lot of room for improvement. And that's, I think it's interesting that COVID in I think all aspects of our lives actually, but especially in the workforce and especially within the legal community, it's shining this giant spotlight on all the flaws in the systems that we've had in place for decades, but that have just been, brushed to the side because why change the system that's working? But now we've had to come up with new ways to make the system more efficient because there's no other choice. And so it's exposed a lot. I've That's the only positive in my head of this horrible situation called COVID, that it's exposed ways that we can begin to improve processes. Um, and what you were talking about actually is exactly that. We don't have an exact science available to us, but we're starting to see the science get improvements because of necessity.
Well, so I think there's going to be improvements, but some of the things that are missing is like being able to see the judge, like
Right.
every other day, right? I would try to like make sure I had like 2 settings a week,
Mm-hmm.
um, so that like I'd have something to aim towards. But by going up to the courthouse, you interact with people, and then sometimes you see someone who you're working another case with, and like for some reason, if you're walled behind an office, it might take each side 10 hours to work out that thing, right? But like that personal connection from being in front of each other, like we took care of that problem in like 2 minutes,
Mm.
right? And then so that's I I think that's irreplaceable, but I think people are forced to look at process now, and I think it will get better. Like one of the issues working with first generation Americans is English isn't their first language, right? So how do you communicate to them and then make sure they understand it and know what they're able to do in court? So because we always have to look at communication and make sure our communication is good just by the nature of our practice. Uh, we have to do it going in English and going backwards in Vietnamese. So, and then uh, hopefully Spanish one day.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to jump into the chat question. I feel badly. I've made this person wait so long. How important is it to consider if a law school has an immigration clinic when you're trying to apply for law school if one wants to pursue immigration law? So, how important are clinics? Certainly not required, but how important are they to get that practical experience?
So I I don't think you make a clinic. I would not go to a school because they didn't have a clinic. Um, because if you think of a clinic, unless it's a year long, you usually don't even see the end of the case. Like like one of the problems is legal processes take a long time, right? So you're looking at a year and a half to see something all the way through. Clinics are good because you get to work, like you can pile a bunch of them in different stages and take a look at them. Um, but I wouldn't make my law school choice based on whether or not it had a clinic, but it would definitely be like if there's two even ones and there's a clinic in the practice specific area that you want to do, that one would push it over the top.
Mhm.
That being said, sometimes I'll tell people that I learned very little in law school, and what I did learn was from Maureen Armour, who is the director of the civil clinic. Like, um, she's one of the people that at law school I really connected to, and uh, I know I made her very angry. She made me very angry. Uh, she made me cry before, um, and
No.
I think I made her eyes water. Like so, uh, but she's retired, and like I love her for all the things that she either taught or tried to teach me. Some of the things she tried to teach me, like, oh, okay, I don't have all the time in the world to do this or that. I need to get to the point, or to it has to have a result behind it in order to invest time.
Right. Oh, I didn't get to have her as a professor, but I heard her name circulating around campus quite a bit with different programs that she was running. So I know exactly who you're talking about. Um, and just so that everyone is clear, a clinical program is essentially an opportunity for you to practice law as a student. So you get a temporary bar card, which is a basically law license. When you pass the bar, you get a bar card to practice. You get a temporary bar card, you get to work a case. And so the clinic is a structured program for credit where you get to take on a case in a specific area. They've got immigration clinics, family law clinics, uh, and more detailed than just immigration family. Some will have child advocacy clinics, or um, animal rights clinics, or human rights clinics, civil action clinics, all kinds of clinics. So that's specifically what Attorney Nguyen was speaking on. Um,
Well, so to like with Ms. Shaw's question though, you have other bites at it too, right? So you can clerk your first year, second year, third year even, and then there's some really great volunteer opportunities with for immigration Catholic charities.
mhm,
They do great work, and then um, I love Mosaic. So a Mosaic is an organization uh, actually opened by UTA PhD um, for victims of domestic violence and uh, uh, human trafficking. Um, their attorneys have been amazing, and some of my favorite cases each year are the cases we do with Mosaic. They do fantastic work. Um, I actually talked to Alison. She's actually the director of Northwest Legal Aid right now.
mhm.
Um, I like she was awesome. Like, and so, and the other director before, so all their legal team, it comes together and it's based on grants and funding. So it gets built up and people move around. That like Anna Rupani is amazing. She's doing uh, either Human Rights Initiative or the Women's Muslim group, who does really like amazing work. And uh, Miken's a professor at A&M. Um, but there's always opportunities to get exposure to things. And one of the best things about getting exposure to it is you can figure out if it's for you or not. Like,
Yes.
so don't say you hate it until you've done it. Like, and then do it enough to give yourself a chance. And once you start getting good at it, then you tend to like it more.
Right. I agree with that. Well, and he's given you guys some fantastic resources. I hope y'all are taking notes. And these are all ways that, you know, if you choose to go to a law school that does not offer a clinic in an area that you're interested in, ways for you to get exposure to the field. So make sure that you do additional research in that regard of, if let's say you do get into a school that doesn't have a clinic, or that does have a clinic but sometimes they fill up and you don't get to do it. Look at other resources that would give you exposure to that practice area. I see Miss Cachet has a question. From my understanding, family and immigration law can be very emotional cases. How do you deal with that? And is it more difficult to balance and separate your work from personal life because of it? Good question.
So it's a difficult question, right? Like I'm trying to give like an acceptable answer to it.
We're all family here on this call, so be candid. It's okay.
Well, so like when someone says work-life balance, my first thing that comes to my head is like, are you lazy? Like,
Not the person that says it, but just generally, are you a lazy person? If so,
right? So, and it was hard for me. So I think there's something to working until you puke and then working a little bit more and then figuring out how many wins you have.
right.
That being, that being said, it's not sustainable. um, I've tried. So even trying is like, so you crash, like how quick can you get back up, right? So that's probably not ideal and that's not good, but like especially with family law, um, I had a lot of trouble when I first started because I started family law because my mom has um, what's that mean? Like six, no, 6 or 5 really independent minded, strong willed sisters. So I did
Mhm.
all their divorces. So of course I'm connected. Um,
Oh,
so I started in Collin County doing divorces, but it's hard to, it's, it's really important to stay in your role. Because if you really want to help, you want to go that extra mile, but you have to understand why the client is in front of you. The client's not there to have a friend. There's there to have someone give them legal advice and to help them navigate the system.
mm,
And um, sometimes those lines blur, right? Like, because when you work with someone so much, it's like, and you know everything about them, and you start sharing about yourself, it's like um, things get convoluted. So I think you can best serve your clients by really keeping the lines as clear as possible. But the other problem I had when I started was I would care more about a result than the client would. And that's completely wrong because then I know it's my ego
mhm.
like way out of control, right? So um, it's really it's a personal professional service um, what I do at our level. So we do get to know a lot of people and I love um, absolutely love some of the clients and like love the stories that they have to tell and but it is a really hard time like so so the work-life balance thing, like maybe if you use the word work-life equilibrium, like um, and then it kind of like I can make more sense of it. It's like you go like within the equilibrium, you can go like 100 miles an hour and push as hard as you can, right? For one thing, because it helps another thing. But like the balancing thing, like it is so hard. Like it, it's just really hard. Um, but so I tell people I tell my clerks that they should work until they puke and
Oh
then
no.
work a little bit more. And
Oh.
then probably more constructive is I tell them anything you do that is worthwhile in life is going to be stressful, right? Like if like things are just hard, like if we just do the easy things, nothing will ever get done, right? Like if you have a job that's worthwhile, like it's going to be hard, it's going to create stress. Law school will be super stressful. So that's where like if you have with so like you should have like activities that just being able to deal with that stress becomes really important. Um, so I think Miss White will confirm with me. I stopped going to the library because too many people were crying.
Oh, especially around testing time. So MPRE or bar prep time, people are just emotional wrecks. Yes. Yes.
So so it's going to be a trying time, but it's like so law school is going to be trying. Practicing law is going to be trying. Anything worthwhile is going to be trying. But there's only one way through it, and it's through it. Okay, but like how emotionally like stable you can be, or like your happiness, or like it's just going to depend on building your coping skills, right? Like learning how to breathe.
Mm.
Like we're the only creature on earth that needs to be reminded how to breathe. Um, so like you do need to take care of yourself. Um, and it starts there. Even like the goals within my firm, we only had three, right? Like I'm too lazy to do a mission statement or not creative enough. It's like our goal is to make the lives of our clients who walk in the door a little bit better, to make each other a little bit better, and to make ourselves a little bit better. Okay, like this those three things are so interconnected, but the more I go along, the more I realize I have it all backwards. Like it needs to be flipped. I need to make myself better, and I need to make help my team be better. And then like we're too client focused, if you would. It's like we were killing ourselves on some of these pro bono cases, like working 70, 80-hour weeks, and we weren't taking care of ourselves. Uh, so I hope that answers the question.
I think it does. Ultimately, the takeaway is you get out of whatever experience what you put into it. So as far as work life balance, take care of yourself, but go hard after whatever it is that you've decided to do. Don't say it sounds like don't take the easy way out, don't take the lazy way out. Push hard, work hard, go home and play hard, but work hard. And I love that. Sorry, I haven't heard that perspective, so I love the way that you shared that. That was really cool. Um,
Well, so like try like try your hardest. The other thing is you guys have permission to fail. Okay, like if you're winning 100% of the time, then either uh, you're cheating or you're not trying enough things. Like you learn. I've learned more from my failures than my success. So like everyone fails. It's okay to fail. It's what you take away from your failures, right?
I love that. I love that. I feel like so it's almost 1 o'clock. I feel like that's a perfect place to end. Um, Thank you so much, Attorney Nguyen, for being here and speaking with us and sharing not only your profession and what you do, but I feel like you shared a piece of who you are and shared your life with us. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Um, if anybody has any additional questions for Attorney Nguyen about having a solo practice, well, not a solo practice, but having your own practice, having experience with immigration, family law, please let me know, and I'll definitely refer those to Attorney Nguyen or connect the two of you in some way so that you can continue the conversation. But thank you guys for being here and for doing this. This was great. And this was our final lunch and learn of the semester. So until next semester. All right, you all take care and have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.